Hi! I see you're about to become smarter. This video will help you to improve your English language skills. So let's begin.
Denial. Denial. Denial means action of denying something. For example, she shook her head in denial. She shook her head in denial. Synonyms: contradiction, counterstatement, refutation. Density. Density. Density means degree of compactness. For example, a reduction in bone density. A reduction in bone density. Synonyms: solidity, solidness, denseness. Deployment. Deployment. Deployment means movement of troops to place or position for military action. For example, the authorities announced deployment of extra security forces in towns and cities to prevent violence. The authorities announced deployment of extra security forces in towns and cities to prevent violence. Deputy. Deputy. Deputy means person who is appointed to undertake duties of superior in superior's absence. For example, his deputy has been largely running the business for the past year. His deputy has been largely running the business for the past year. Synonyms: second in command, second, number 2. Desktop. Desktop. Desktop means working surface of desk. For example, in the 1980s, wooden desktops were replaced with a gray laminate. In the 1980s, wooden desktops were replaced with a gray laminate. Detection. Detection. Detection means action or process of identifying presence of something concealed. For example, the early detection of fetal abnormalities. The early detection of fetal abnormalities. Synonyms: observation, noticing, noting. Detention. Detention. Detention means action of detaining someone or state of being detained in official custody. For example, one of the effects of police detention is isolation from friends and family. One of the effects of police detention is isolation from friends and family. Synonyms: custody, imprisonment, confinement. Devil. Devil. Devil means supreme spirit of evil. For example, belief in the devil. Belief in the devil. Diagnosis. Diagnosis. Diagnosis means identification of nature of illness by examination of symptoms. For example, early diagnosis and treatment are essential. Early diagnosis and treatment are essential. Synonyms: identification, recognition, discovery. Dictator. Dictator. Dictator means ruler with total power. For example, we have struggled courageously to topple the dictator and establish democracy. We have struggled courageously to topple the dictator and establish democracy. Synonyms: autocrat, monocrat, absolute ruler. Dignity. Dignity. Dignity means being worthy of honor or respect. For example, a man of dignity and unbending principle. A man of dignity and unbending principle. Dilemma. Dilemma. Dilemma means situation in which difficult choice has to be made between two or more alternatives. For example, the people often face the dilemma of feeding themselves or their cattle. The people often face the dilemma of feeding themselves or their cattle. Synonyms: quandary, predicament, difficulty. Dimension. Dimension. Dimension means measurable extent. For example, the final dimensions of the pond were 14 featuring by 8 feet. The final dimensions of the pond were 14 featuring by 8 feet. Synonyms: proportions, measurements, extent. Diplomat. Diplomat. Diplomat means official representing country abroad. For example, government leaders, senior officials and diplomats attended the ceremony. Government leaders, senior officials and diplomats attended the ceremony. Synonyms: ambassador, envoy, emissary. Disclosure. Disclosure. Disclosure means action of making new or secret information known. For example, a judge ordered the disclosure of the documents. A judge ordered the disclosure of the documents. Synonyms: revelation, surprising fact, divulgence. Discourse. Discourse. Discourse means written or spoken communication. For example, the language of political discourse. The language of political discourse. Synonyms: discussion, conversation, talk. Discretion. Discretion. Discretion means quality of behaving or speaking in such way as to avoid causing offense or revealing confidential information. For example, she knew she could rely on his discretion. She knew she could rely on his discretion. Synonyms: circumspection, care, carefulness. Discrimination. Discrimination. Discrimination means action of discriminating against people. For example, victims of racial discrimination. Victims of racial discrimination. Synonyms: prejudice, bias, bigotry. Dismissal. Dismissal. Dismissal means act of ordering or allowing someone to leave. For example, their controversial dismissal from the competition. Their controversial dismissal from the competition. Synonyms: one's notice, discharge, rejection. Disruption. Disruption. Disruption means disturbance or problems which interrupt event or process. For example, the schedule was planned to minimize disruption. The schedule was planned to minimize disruption. Synonyms: disturbance, disordering, disarrangement.
Great! Watch again, practice the sound, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.